Hello, nonprofit leaders. I'm Sarah Olivieri, your host, and this podcast is here to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders make a bigger impact with insights, tips, and lessons learned from nonprofit leaders and experts. Having been an executive director, a board member, and now a consultant and coach, I truly understand the challenges you face. And that's why I'm here. I'm all about working smarter, not harder, so you can make a bigger impact without the burnout. And so is our sponsor, DonorBox. DonorBox isn't just a suite of helpful fundraising tools, it's a partner that helps you raise more money and supports you in retaining your donors. I love their forward-thinking approach. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. And don't forget to sign up for the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter, where you'll get bite-sized, actionable tips just for nonprofit leaders like you, delivered weekly to your inbox. Sign up at inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. My guest for this episode is Justin Goodhew, who is the co-founder and CEO of Trellis.org, a leading integrated Gala and auction software for Blackbaud's Razor's Edge. After attending fundraising conferences and interviewing nonprofit professionals, he discovered that events, especially galas, were on one of the biggest untapped opportunities to drive meaningful donation growth. Today, Trellis has helped raise over $100 million through auctions and paddle raises, powering more than 500 galas across North America. He is passionate about helping charities unlock the real ROI, one of my favorite terms, especially when it's related to galas, from events, and is excited to share his insights. Welcome, Justin. Before we dive into all things nonprofit gala, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself personally? I love to round people out as whole people.
For sure. Yeah. And thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting, Sarah. Yeah. So I'm Canadian. I live on the West Coast in Canada. I love it there because there's a ski mountain 45 minutes away. So myself, my two young kiddos, the dogs, my wife, we love being outside as much as we can. And that's the beautiful part of a tech company is you can kind of pick and choose where you want to live. So I love being outside when I'm not chatting with amazing people like yourself.
I love that. I have so many, I feel like I've been attracting a lot of Canadian friends, or just I'm tuning in. I've been to the West Coast. I went to a wedding on the Sunshine Coast, kind of on a little island that took 3 ferries to get to.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And as a skier and a sailor, I'm a little jealous of that part of the world.
Oh, hey, well done.
I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah, and well done getting to the Sunshine Coast. Like, if people are like, oh, I've been to Vancouver and Whistler, but like the Sunshine Coast is amazing. Like, it's this little hidden gem that I've only had the pleasure of being to once, and it's amazing. So good for you.
Well, you must go again for me, and maybe I will get there again soon because it's really, I've traveled all around the world and one of the most beautiful, incredible places I've ever been to. Anyway, let's talk about galas. I'm really excited about this because there's lots of examples of galas kind of having negative ROI, but I agree with you that there are, ROI positive ways of doing galas. Mm-hmm. So tell me what you uncovered and what are some of the key things that make a gala ROI, that's return on investment, for those of you out there listening, a positive, a net positive experience?
For sure. And let me just take a step back here. Galas, for some reason, are getting this bad rap. They always have because of this ROI and all this piece and how much work it is and all this stuff. But I guarantee you the for-profit sector, if it was socially acceptable to get people to come in and just give them a bunch of Kool-Aid about their brand, they would totally do it, right? But it's just not socially acceptable. It has to be for a good cause to then do those things and give you money. So you see this happening in for-profit all over the place. People are trying to create these events in person, especially because we're stuck on our phones. So they need to get people out and experiencing it and brand ambassadorship. And in charities, you're just allowed to. So that's what I love about galas. And that's why I'm just going to keep beating the drum. Like, you have this amazing opportunity to get the people that love your cause and get them in one room together, give them as much Kool-Aid as they can drink right? And then they can go out and they can keep giving later on and later on. And that's where we talk about the ROI. So before I jump in, keep going, did you want me to change anything else, or I can keep?
Yeah, no, that's good. In fact, you've given me a great segue. I said I was going to bring a book,
Mm-hmm.
which is a for-profit famous sales book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, written not that recently, but still extremely relevant. 2007. That's not ancient
Yeah.
history yet. And he literally says how important it is to be having these branding event experiences and outlines how these for profit businesses should host a gala in order to help expand their network of ideal clients. But what I love about his take on the gala is the for profit business organizes it, puts it on. The charity invites some people, shows up, receives the check for all the good brandingness. and then they just get to go to the party, get the money, and go home. And so it's a very high ROI experience for the charities. But I think you're so right. I love that you started that with there is so much power in in-person events. So carry on, not to
Yeah.
derail where you were going.
No, I just want people to take it seriously, right? Because it's such like an easy thing and a trend to be like, don't do events, just do this. And I'm not disagreeing, right? And I'm going to talk about what things to do in an event to increase those margins and those ROIs. And yes, a $10,000, 50,000, 100,000, $1 million donation, you get a lot more margin on than when you do events. But it's not like those are just going to come, knocking on the door, right? You have to do a lot of work to get to those. So I think there's really three pieces that I look in an event playbook and a gala playbook. And when I hear people say that, because I talk to thousands of these organizers every year, and when they say these things, it's like, oh wow, you know what you're doing. You're really leveraging your event. So,
Yeah.
so how do we?
I'm going to pause you right
Yeah.
there for 1 second because you said something really important and I don't want to let it slip by. You said something about, right, that big $50,000 donation from that individual or $5 million, whatever amount it is, kind of versus events. And I feel like that's where the
Yes.
conversation goes wrong right away. To me, those are apples and oranges.
Mm-hmm.
To me, an event is like a tool that can be used for building those
Yeah.
relationships that lead to the $5 million checks.
Yeah.
They are not instead of the relationship.
Yeah.
They are one of the tools that we use. And so I think that if we're comparing, is it just individual meetings versus events? Like then it's a different conversation. Then is it raising through relationships versus events? Those are two different things. One is like the overall strategy, and the other one is like the exact tactic that's part of that journey. Does that resonate with you?
100%. I think events is part of the trunk of the apple tree, to get the apples at the end. If we're talking apples and oranges here, right? It's part of that experience
Yeah.
strategy. And it's not for everyone, for sure. Definitely not for everyone. If that's not built into your current strategy, if you have something else that's working, that's fantastic. Right? Like, I mean, at Trellis, we just integrate with Razor's Edge. That's it. We don't integrate with the rest right now. Like, we're very focused on what we do. It's not, and so
Yeah.
like, you do need to focus your strategy. So if you are doing events right now, instead of stopping them, right? If your board says, "Ooh, is this worth it?" Let's do these three things, right? And that's what I
Yeah.
really want to get into. So, number one is the part of sponsorships and table purchasers. That is so core. So before your event, when you're trying to get people to come to the event, you need the right people to come into the room. And that starts with getting the right businesses or table purchasers, champions to do that, right? Because those are the people that care the most, they have money, and they're going to cover all of your costs, right? So that you should have all your costs covered before the event start, right? Everything is there. So then everything at the event is just extra money. It is really increasing that ROI. So what I always say to people is, hey, take your last three events, go look at who spent the most money, who cares the most, who bought those tables, right? And then make sure they are the ones that buying it. Try not to get too many individual table ticket sales. It's all about those sponsorships. And then the cool part is when they buy that sponsor, they have that table, then you can just work with that 20 to 50 people that bought those tables and say, who are you going to bring? Right? Here's the best people for us. Like, you care about our cause. You're buying this table. This is who we love for you to bring. They bring those type of people that maybe have a higher net worth, that really care about that cause. Those people are showing up ready to give, and they didn't pay for their seat. So they feel like they need to give. So then you have, on a table of 10, you have 9 people that got there for free, and they're ready with their wallets to start giving you money and telling you all about their habits, which leads me into
Yeah.
number 2. But I do want to
Okay.
pause, Sarah, in case you want to dive in there.
There's so many like things percolating
Yeah.
in my head. So, my marketing brain is turning on, right? So I love what you said about you told them who to bring, right? Which makes it easier for them and it makes it better for you. You have this, kind of social obligation, right? They didn't pay for their seat, right? So they're now thinking, how can I help? I'm also thinking, maybe you teach this, but I'll just throw it in because it's what I'm thinking. Like, I want to get their contact info and any information I get about them in advance. Maybe I say, like, I want to make custom welcome packages, right? Tell me who you're bringing in advance so I can start to get to know them. Because to me, this is like a way of introducing new people to me, right? So I want to start this friendship really well and see who do I really want to invest my time in. So I know at that table, if I'm the executive director, let's say, who at that table am I paying a special visit to during the night? So there's just a few things. I love the way you frame this up. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and like there was an advanced tip there, so I'm going to highlight it. So Heather Kirsten, one of our great customers on Trellis, we just did a case study actually with her, and she has this playbook. She comes from the NCAA, so that big basketball tournament. Like she was one of the planners on that thing. Like it's teams from all over, big brackets. They have playbooks, right? And they have VIP lists. So in the playbook, it's the run of show, right? Which everything has it, everything you need to do to the second almost, at least to the minute,
Yeah.
but also all the VIPs. Right. So when you're volunteer number 2 and you're responsible for these 3 tables, there's 6 VIPs there, and here's what they are about them. Right. And oh, by the way, this person brought a couple friends that we don't know as much about. Can you try and fill out this information? That's the next level for sure. So I definitely concur on that. So now,
I love that you shared that because I want people to realize that there are really great next level things. And for those of you listening who are ready for the next level, take it and run. For those of you who are not, let me just say, make sure you've mastered the basics before you overwhelm yourself with next level stuff.
Yeah, and that's such a great thing, and just adding 1% every year or whatever that looks like, and that's why it's just focus on the people that are going to buy the tables, right? Like if there's one thing to do, don't like go do radio ads and all this crazy stuff. Just like, hey, we need 20 tables. Okay, I need 20 people, right? That's it. Simple.
Yeah, 20 people. I've got my calculator instead of my phone, but like to me, that's like phone call work,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey.
Right? $1,000, whatever. And how did you get how did you get 10 table purchasers last year? Like go and look in that data specifically. Oh, actually 5 of them were from the fundraiser A on my team who has a relationship with them. So actually I just need to go chat with my team and be like, hey, can we do a curated ask? Whatever that is. So it's really, don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing. Just get those people. How did you get them last year? Just do more of it. Right. And that's less is more on that. So
I have a question related to that. I know I'm interrupting you, but because when I coach my clients who do sponsorship activity, the way they come in is like, what do I need to have as my like 3 sponsorship levels and brochure? I'm like, no, relationship building. Like just call them up, have a conversation, see what they want, and then like give them something custom. What do you see working in this kind of like sponsor the table as far as like, what do you go to them with?
Yeah. So I totally agree at a certain level, right? So you need to figure out what the threshold is, because what I do find is sometimes nonprofits put their threshold too low. So they're spending time having a one-on-one conversation with someone that's going to spend $500 on half a table sponsorship. And they're going to lose all of that margin just by talking to them and spending time. So there needs to be all the sponsorship levels to a certain degree, general, need to be listed, or at least some, because when people go to purchase the table or tickets, they'll see the sponsorship opportunity. They usually don't buy it, to be honest, on the Trellis site because they're bigger, but they see that and they're like, ooh, I'm going to go contact my person at that charity and have that conversation. So I think number 1 is have a conversation with your team. What is our threshold, right? A lot of people, it's 10,000, a lot it's 5, some it's 20. So if and maybe it's like, I want to, and you have an option, I want to sponsor above 20. And then you have that conversation. Okay. Cause it's personal to you, right? When you think about, and I get chills just thinking about this part, it's like, then you can start digging in like, okay, they want to spend some money. This is what I love to do. I want to dig on into why you care about this cause that I work at. Oh, you really care about this section of our 3 pillars. So let's talk about, okay, how can we highlight that part in your sponsorship in that pillar? And then that's the fun part, right? Like that's why I love hearing these stories, and that's why they're involved. So it's not, and then it's not a dollar amount, right? And then also don't be afraid to ask for the amount you need, right? So you need to know, okay, like for us to do this thing, each table needs to be 20,000. And if you want this special piece because it's really resonating to you, and you know that they can probably afford it, like, hey, like here's this, but like we could do this part for another X amount of dollars. If they've already said their budget is certain, then you can do that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So much gold in there. Like I won't go deep, but like ask for what you really need, what you
Mhm.
actually really need.
You can always
And
go
it's
back
so
after,
important.
right?
Yeah.
Like you can't go up, you can go down, right?
Yeah.
Like you really can.
Yeah.
And some people, especially when they've dug into why they care, that's an opening, right? And then you'll see right away, oh, actually
Mhm.
that's way too much. Well then, hey, here's this, great, right? And you have that. So and it's again like you need to be open and forward about that. Like, hey, Sarah, like we are having this conversation because it sounds like you're willing to spend at least $20,000. And that's
Yeah.
what, like, people
Yeah.
are okay with that, right? If not, no worries. Like, here's some other options, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, I want to spend
Yeah.
more than 20. Let's have a chat. Great. Like, where's
Yeah.
your favorite coffee shop, right?
Totally.
Like, and
Especially at the sponsorship context. Like people know they've already kind of like decided, like they know what their budget is, It's just kind of just a matter of like how much is going to you.
yes, 100%, right? And they have that budget. Like, we all have those budgets in there, especially on that side. And so it's just that conversation, right? So for us, like again at Charles, like if you're raising less than 200K in your gala, it's not like we don't want to work with you. It's just doesn't work for us right now. We're really good at kind of that 200 to $1 million gala. Like we love that. That's where we excel and we focus on and where we build our products for. It's not like we don't
Yeah.
want to work with you. It's just like we don't do as good of a job and we want to do a good job. So
Yeah.
like it's being clear. And so we just say, hey, thanks for signing up. Unfortunately, like I don't know if this is going to be a good fit. Here's some other great options for you. So it's knowing that. So I do want to get to that second point, Sarah.
Yep.
And
Go
I
ahead.
love this because I think you're really going to love it. And I want to make sure we have enough time. So when you're now at the event, right? So you've worked really hard to get the right people, the tables are bought, your costs are already covered. Now it's like, okay, let's just start. I like to say, like, let's start getting the data, right? And it's not even about making the money. I'm going to talk to you how to make more money, but it's really the data. So what we do is you have to make sure that there's upsells during your gala. And I'm not doing that because I want you to be a greedy, charity that just wants money. It's because you want to highlight the cream of the crop. You want to highlight the people that really care and have wallets, big wallets to do so. So what example, and you don't have to do any extra effort for this, is what I love. So on Trellis, when you bid on an auction item, so you put your bid in $50 for a golf trip, right? Right after you place that bid, you're then asked, do you want to donate your bid if you lose? And
Mm.
there's about, I think it's about 6 or 7% of people will be like, yep, donate my entire bid if I lose. So now you've sold that golf trip, and then you have 1 or 2 people also just donating because they didn't win. And what that does is those people that donate their bid, they're like, hey, I have money. I don't even care about this golf trip. I just want to give it to you. Right. So that's like a great data point. And there's so many other little data points that you can identify from, hey, I made a bid for $5,000 and I didn't win. And I left buying a drink. That's it. Another like
Yeah.
purchase intent that they never spent. So that's another great one. So there's in the upsells, if there is you're buying a ticket, but I'll add a donation, right? Like this is why we put those in there, not
Yeah.
really for the revenue up front, even though you do make more money. It's the data after the like, hey, here's that
It's
10%.
I love it so much. And I think, the best data, like you can ask somebody what they think, but if you really want to know what they think, you get them to take an action because their actions are often, you would say actions are louder than words, actions are more
Yeah.
true than words, right? Like, and so that data is gold. It reminds me another famous marketer, Ryan Levesque, who I learned this method of doing marketing surveys from. And at the end of the survey, it was really about gathering language that people said and how they described their problems. At the end of the survey, it said, if you're open to us calling you and having a conversation about your answers, leave your phone number. Are you ever going to call the people in that type of survey? No, that's not part of it. You were just, then you take the answers of the people who gave their phone number and you weight those more heavily as data points, because the people who will give you their phone number are much more likely to, have buy-in or be like great donors or great customers. So it's like, it's one of those ways of gathering really, really good data to use for so many things. So I absolutely love that.
And I find, unfortunately, sometimes events bring in characters that like to show off and be a little performative. And then what
Mm-hmm. Yep.
happens is our planners spend more time with them. And then when you go look at the data, they didn't donate their bid. They didn't raise their paddle on the high paddle raise ones. They didn't buy the table. They got invited through a friend. And I'm not like, that's okay, right? But at the end of the day here, we're trying to increase ROI and we're trying to find the people that care with their wallets just as much as they care by saying it out loud. And
Yep.
that's like just some parts of events. And then what happens is if you start kind of weaning those people out and weaning the people that really care, that might have they'd give anonymously because there is no ego involved. Holy, it's so refreshing as an organizer.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
yeah.
God, totally. That reminds me, I had a client who one of their biggest donors gave a very large donation every year, very consistently, under the condition that they don't receive any communication from the nonprofit
Yeah.
all year.
Yeah.
And they don't want to, and they want to remain anonymous, right?
Yeah.
And so as long as they get no stewardship, they get their big gift every year. And it's a fantastic donor for them.
That's a thing, right? And people do want those things, and that's why again, digital is great because you don't have to raise your paddle to give. You can just give on the side, right? For your
Yeah.
phone, and
I
you
love
can say
that. I
anonymous
love
and
that.
pieces like that. So that's really what I like to talk about. Is hey, you get the right people in the room. You're always trying to analyze that top 20% that gets you the 80%, right? And get those purchasers. You've already paid for everything before the event starts, so there's no stress. And then you just ring it up with those upsells and things and really focusing on what matters. And really what matters, yes, we get about, I think it's only like 20% of our sales through Trellis, through the $100 million we've raised, have been through
Yeah.
paddle raises. But when you think about that's gross. When you think about net for the charity though, right? There's no, like, here's $1,000, right? There's no cost. There's no like organizing the auction item. They didn't have to pay a little bit for the auction item, right? There's no food costs on the paddle raise. There was no any like cost for goods sold. It's just straight profit. So that
Yeah.
20% of gross turns into about 40% of their net. So it doubles. So
Mm.
every dollar you're getting in a paddle raise is actually worth two almost. And a lot of it is unrestricted as well. So I just
Yeah.
want to highlight during the event, you getting your sponsor tables at the start. During the event, the core thing is get your upsells in and also do paddle race. And if you haven't done a paddle race before, it's quite scary because you're like, oh, what if no one does it? The trick, and all the people that do really good paddle raises, it's all about pre-planning. They have about
Okay.
40 to 60% of their 100K already pre-seeded in the room. And yours that you pick should allow that. So you put all your pre-seeded gifts in beforehand, and then the auctioneer or whoever's doing that is up there being their excited selves, and then someone's just pressing a button, releasing gifts, right? And then
Yeah.
that starts building the excitement, and you're already at 40 to 60%, and you usually blow by your goal because of that.
Yeah. That's so important. Like psychologically, you have to, I believe it's get over like that 1/3 mark, or it actually works against you when people know how much. So it is really key for people to using just like thermometer software or thermometers in real life, right? You have to precede your thermometer. You got to get to a decent threshold, 30% minimum. But I love like 40 to 60% because people want to get you over the threshold. That's when that kind of like
Mhm.
visual tool makes a difference.
Yeah.
I also love you slipped in there the 80/20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle, which shows up throughout the world, throughout patterns, which is
Mhm.
that it's 20% of the work gets you 80% of the results. And it's very true in fundraising, right? It's 20% of your donors who are going to give you 80% of the money within and then it shrinks down and down and down. So within a
Yeah.
gala, it's 20% of the people there who are going to give you 80% of the money, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be 20% of the paddle raisers who are going to be 80%
Yeah.
of that money. So, but the trick is honing in on that 20%, right? You have to learn. And that's where I love like these data pieces and the research beforehand that you were talking about. That is all so that you can figure out who that 20% are. Because if you can figure out who they are, there's 20% of that group who are going to give 80% of the money, right? And you can start going for that next inner level of the 80-20 rule.
And that's the goal, right? Is
Yeah.
you take that 20 from last year's and you make it the 80 and there's a new 20, right? Because like there's probably 5% are your table purchasers that are in that 20%. And then you have the other 15% of that. And that's, okay, who did the table purchasers bring that then donated their bid, that then added a high paddle raise, that made a big bid, whatever that is. And then how do you then make sure you build those relationships after? And that segues perfectly into that last piece, because people listening to this are probably like, oh my gosh, like I'm now overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed. Like I do these events, it's exhausting. And why is it exhausting? And why do everyone question it? Because it's outside of the norm. You show up every day to work and you do the same thing. When you do a gala, it's not the same thing. It's like on a weekend, it's at night, it's so much more work for everyone. So your whole team is getting annoyed, frustrated. So the more that your event can be integrated into your current systems, the happier your team will be. And I can't overstate that enough. So when you're analyzing who you should invite, just attend one of your fundraisers meetings where they maybe talk about, hey, like who are some new donors? Who are some new opportunities? Just jump in there and add a little event piece. Don't make a separate meeting for the events because now you're adding work. Same thing goes with the software you choose needs to integrate into your CRM. And if it does, holy smokes, does it change the conversation? Because now your database person and your finance team is like, wait a second. So when the event's over, I just reconcile the same way I reconcile everything else because it goes right into our system in Razor's Edge. Yes. So and like same with the database. So you're not, yes, it's more work. Of course, you're adding work, but it's adding into a system that's built versus adding something outside the system. And then everyone starts getting frustrated. So now you've invited the right people, right? You have identified some new potential donors and you kept your team happy as can be with events, with the integrated systems. Now we're talking about, okay, how can we start making some magic on these events? And that's where it gets really exciting. That's why I think galas need to stay.
Well, I love that you brought, there's more gold there, right? Again, if we're talking about like famous business and marketing quotes, another famous one that's coming to my mind is the fortune is in the follow-up, right?
Right.
So I really love, one of the things that, you can't let yourself just be exhausted and fall apart after your event, because that's when the really good, juicy follow-up, that's when you take that new friend and bring them on the journey to becoming a best friend, right? Like who you met at the gala. So I'd love to add to that, like make sure you're planning your follow-up in advance so it's not something new you have to do at the event. Save some energy. And I just want to go back to that, like calculate the real costs, right? Like if you need to if your staff is really busy, like running the things and saving people's lives, hire some other people, let them enjoy the event. And maybe you need some money to help pay people to help run the event, right? And then you can get that money covered by your sponsors, right? Like and that way that it's not an invisible cost. Like invest what you really need to make the event what it needs to be. I think like so many things, there's a minimum threshold. And I love that you shared, like there are clients who aren't going to do enough at their gala that's not going to be the right fit for you. And I'm sure this is true. I don't know the number for galas in general, right? Like, but most activities, you can have too little to invest in it to be worth it. It's because it gets like a plane that's like stuck burning fuel on the runway.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough resources to take off and really make the thing happen well, you probably shouldn't start doing it. And you should find a resource generating activity that you do have the resources to get started doing. So I think that's really, really important. I love that idea about making it more part of the everyday so that it's easier on everybody.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And wherever you're at with your community engagement, right? You might not be ready for a full scale gala, and that's okay. I don't think it needs to be, right? Like there's a lot of these more centric like donor dinners and things which have much higher ROIs than galas. right? But when you're at a certain level, you can't just do those, right? Or maybe you
Yeah.
actually do have a gala, but you don't have any of those little dinners, right? So then maybe you
Yeah.
can start looking at that. But it really does depend, and looking at the strategy there. So hopefully this helps your listeners with analyzing what they're doing next, and maybe taking some things away while increasing the ROI.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I know we're roughly coming to time, but I'd love to ask you if
Yeah.
you have any examples of things that people have taken away that helped make their galas better.
Yeah, so I think a couple. The one thing I didn't mention on the paddle raise is you really need to put your mission forward, right? So like that experience at a gala, like if it's a rubber chicken, it's a rubber chicken gala. It's not going to be that exciting. But if you can put your mission forward, and throughout the evening when they enter, they can see stats or stories, or they can have people that they're benefiting, right? Like an easy one is like the SPCA. They literally had puppies at the gala, right, that needed to be adopted, and they were adorable and people loved it, and like that was so cool, right? But whatever that is, another organization, they do mission stops, so it's like a fluid experience, so there's no sitting down with the same and having that same conversation the whole time. They have stops. You walk in and then there's 5 stops in this room, and you have a different food experience and wine experience with a impact experience. And then once
Love that.
everyone has hit all the stops, then it's okay. We're all standing up. We're all excited. We've all had 2 to 5 drinks, and we're going to do the paddle raise now. Right. So that was a really
Yeah.
cool and interesting way. And there was no sitting down. People have had balloons where they like add a balloon to the person's chair every time they give or bid or whatever. So some people had like tons of balloons on their chair, and it was like a competition. And then I love the one where before it all starts, it's like, hey, we're doing a live auction, for example. Here's a pie that, this auctioneer baked. And they're like, I'm a horrible baker. Here's this pie, but I want to set the tone. This pie is not leaving this stage until we get at least like $5,000. And then it was like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. And someone bought this like really crappy pie for $10,000 just to like prove a point. This is why we're here.
Yeah.
And so there's
Yeah.
lots of really cool, fun ideas like that we see every day.
I love that. I think those examples are so inspiring, and they're so in alignment with this idea that your gala is one of those tools in your toolbox. It is not the strategy. It is not the goal to have a gala or not have the gala. And you have to figure out if it's the right tool for you and how you can have a better version of the tool. Do you want the manual hammer, or do you want the pneumatic, like boop, 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 hammer,
Yeah.
which it sounds like you have built for those who are ready to have the pneumatic hammer. So tell us, Justin, for those folks who are thinking, this is for me, I want to learn more. I want to learn more about galas. Remind us again, what's the right size organization? Who should be reaching out? And what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, great. So if you're using Razor's Edge NXT right now, you raise at least $200,000 in event fundraising, not peer-to-peer, but galas, golf tournaments. Please come to trellis.org. We do a webinar every Tuesday, Thursday, so we won't attack you with sales as well. Just come watch the webinar, 15 to 20 minutes. You'll see if you're a fit, and then we can work with you from there. If not, follow me on LinkedIn as well. It's probably the other place. We post a lot of great stats on galas. We try and open up all that data we have in an anonymous way to help every event fundraiser do better. So trellis.org, follow me on LinkedIn, and really just wanted to say thank you for everyone for doing good in their community. It gets me up every day and gets me excited to do what I do.
Yay. Well, thank you, Justin. And also from me, thank you to those out there listening for everything you do and all the work that goes into raising the money and making it all happen. Take a moment to subscribe, like, review, visit this podcast on YouTube. It helps us spread the word. Or you can just share this episode or another one you found helpful with a friend. And until next time, I wish you all the best.
You've been listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode or the bonus episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share with your friends and colleagues. Tune in every week for more useful insights and wisdom on nonprofit leadership. Thanks so much for all you do for the communities you serve. Until next time, all the best.